Once again, it's another high time. I appreciate the presence and I thank God for everyone who is on this platform. I thank you all, brothers. Today we are going to discuss what the US is really doing in Africa, and I want us to watch this video for my reaction later.
What the hell is this US military base doing in Africa? This is Camp Lemonnier in Djibouti, the Horn of Africa. Camp Lemonnier was leased by the Djibouti government to the United States Navy in 2002. So Camp Lemonnier is a United States naval expeditionary base situated next to the Djibouti Ambuli International Airport in Djibouti City and home to the Combined Joint Task Force Horn of Africa of the United States African Command, AFRICOM. And I've talked about AFRICOM before. AFRICOM represents the U.S. military presence in Africa with the headquarters in Stuttgart, Germany. And it's the only permanent U.S. military base in Africa. The camp is operated by the United States Navy, Europe, Africa, Southwest Asia, and the CJTF Horn of Africa is the most notable tenant command located at the facility as of 2008. The question is, what the hell are the Americans doing in Africa with all these military bases proliferated all around Africa? So they continue to allow the flow of small arms and light ammunition onto the continent. They continue to place these military bases everywhere in Africa. It is time for the Americans to pack their bags and leave like we are kicking out the French. We also know for a fact that America have military presence in the Sahel up until recently with their drone base in Agadez, until they were kicked out by the military junta that took over power in Niamey, alongside the French and the Italians and the Germans and all these other European countries that continue to have this kind of parasitic relationship with Africa. It is about time for these guys to pack their bags and leave. America does no good for Africa. America continues to instigate violence and terror in Africa and bomb countries in Africa in the name of democracy. It is enough. It is about time for the US to pack their bags and leave.
Here are 4 strategic African countries that the United States and its allies in the West has captured to keep a hold of Africa and keep Africa enslaved. Number 1, Nigeria. Yes, if you control Nigeria, you control the whole of West Africa. Nigeria, of course, they've got a good network of roads from Nigeria to other West African countries. They've got air transport well linked to all the cities in West Africa. And Nigeria militarily is the biggest. You know, Americans have made Nigeria the biggest military deliberately so that they can easily control West Africa, intimidate other countries. That's how they've kept control. And recently, they pampered the Nigerian economy artificially to become Africa's biggest, when it's not true. You cannot have Africa's biggest economy with 13 million people threatened by hunger in 2024. It doesn't happen. You can't hear of hunger in South Africa. I mean, Gauteng alone in South Africa is the biggest economy. You can't compare with any country, but it's just a district in South Africa. So it's not true that Nigeria is the biggest economy. Americans twerk. They brought down the South African economy. Remember what they did with the banks, conniving with the banks to bring down the rand and all that, so that they should lose track when it comes to Standard & Poor credit rating? Yeah, that's America trying to pamper Nigeria. And why did they pamper Nigeria like that? They were trying to hit back at South Africa for joining the BRICS. Yeah, you get it? So, control Nigeria, you control West Africa. And you know, when they pamper these people, they pamper them socially as well. Nigerians feel like they're top dogs in West Africa, you know? And, you know, you cannot talk to a Nigerian about Pan-Africanism. Have you heard a Nigerian talking about Pan-Africanism? If there is, very few. But they don't talk Pan-Africanism. You know, they feel like they're top dogs, America is with them and all that. You know, they pamper them socially, deliberately, so that they should have no feelings for any other West African country when it's suffering under the boot of the United States and its allies. And, you know Nigerians with Israel. You know, Israel is their heaven, their promised land. You know, you cannot talk to a Nigerian about genocide in Israel. You know, you can't, because they did a good job of brainwashing Nigerians in that area. Let's not even go there. Country number 2, Egypt. Yes, control Egypt, you control North Africa. All the countries, Libya, Algeria, Tunisia, Sudan, Ethiopia, they are under Egypt. Egypt is superior militarily, economically, and Egypt is well linked by road, by rail, by air transport, very well linked in North Africa. And as usual, the Americans have pampered the Egyptians to feel that they are most important people in North Africa. So when they hear that this such country, like they did to Libya, devastating that country, the Egyptians were just, oh, well, it's none of our business. We're good with the United States, So they have pampered them economically, socially, so that they should have no feelings for any other. Like they're eating on the same table, but they're not really. They're just another African country that they're exploiting, and that's how the United States plays this game. So you control Egypt, you control North Africa. Third country that the United States and its allies strategically controls on the African continent is Kenya. Kenya is well placed strategically. The rails and road networks from Uganda, Tanzania, Rwanda, all of them connect to Kenya. And they did that deliberately because they want to get a good grip on East Africa. The United States deliberately made the Kenyan army the strongest army. And that's for a reason. They're sending them into Haiti to keep the peace in Haiti. But in actual fact, they're doing the dirty work for the United States in Haiti. They're doing that in Somalia already. They sent their troops in Somalia on the orders of the United States to keep the peace in Somalia. But they're doing the dirty work there. They're simply trying to make sure that all East African countries are kept in check and the United States keeps its control over the eastern part of Africa. Yes, talk to a Kenyan about Pan-Africanism. How many Kenyans have spoken Pan-Africanism? One guy, Patrice Lumumba, I give it up to him. I give it up to you, sir. But he's a lone star. Kenyans don't share the same sentiments with Patrice Lumumba when it comes to Pan-Africanism. He's like a desert flower. Rose, I don't know what they call those flowers that you just find in the desert, just there alone in the middle of nowhere. That's Patrice Lumumba. Kenyans have been socially pampered by the Americans to feel superior to everybody in East Africa. There's a reason for that. That's what Americans do best. They pamper you so that you feel nothing for the others who are suffering. Just look at what they've done with our African leaders. They are so rich, they are billionaires, but they are running the poorest countries on earth, and they feel no remorse. Fourth country that the United States and its allies in the West control is South Africa. Yes, if you control South Africa, you control the whole of Southern Africa. South Africa has got a good road network into Africa, rail, air, and if you control the South African economy, you control the whole of Southern African economy. And the United States was very scared when they saw that, oh, these guys, they've gone to BRICS. Oh, these guys have kicked Israel out. But Ramaphosa is paying a big price for that because they are coming hard on him. They want regime change. In this 2024 election, the ANC has lost its majority in parliament. They've divided the South Africans so good. As usual, the Americans, they have pampered the South Africans to make them feel like they're the most special guys in Southern Africa, and they won't care a thing about Pan-Africanism because the Americans do it best. They'll pamper you to make you feel important and part of them. And South Africans are light-skinned. Maybe they feel like they're closer to the white skin. Maybe. Because they voted for a white party, DA. The party that says in its manifesto that they'll never give the land back to the black people. That's the party that South Africans have voted for to keep it in second place and very, very close to power. But the party that speaks Pan-Africanism like the EFF, they've kicked it so far down to fourth place. And very, very soon, the DA might start ruling South Africa, slow by slow. America wants South Africa back, and they want to punish Ramaphosa. And Americans are sending a message that if you stand against America and Israel, you're going to pay the price. And this is the message they're sending to Ramaphosa right now. So the Americans are fighting to get South Africa back. This is exactly what is happening. America has gotten hold of the whole of Africa using 4 countries: Nigeria, Egypt, Kenya, and South Africa.
General Michael Langley is on his way out as head of U.S. Africa Command, AFRICOM, after facing intense criticism and pushback from across Africa and beyond. Many believe he simply couldn't handle the heat, especially after failing to gain trust among African nations during rising anti-Western sentiment. Now, the U.S. is replacing him with Lieutenant General Dagvin Anderson, a no-nonsense Air Force commander known for leading special ops missions. Anderson is reportedly coming in with full force, starting in the Sahel region, which Langley himself called the epicenter of terrorism in Africa. This leadership shift signals a harder, more aggressive U.S. military approach on the continent. Anderson is expected to take swift action in regions pushing out Western forces, raising new questions about sovereignty, strategy, and resistance. The face may change. The mission? Possibly more forceful. Africa, are you ready?
For real, I have learned that truly US has so many things that is doing in Africa, but today we are going to base on the major impacts or the major things US is really doing in Africa. And I have found out that the US has a multiple interest in Africa, often between strategic influence, security, and economic. And we are going to start with the political influence. The US government supports governance and democracy, and also human rights programs that maintains soft power on Africa. And we have economic interest as a reason number 2 why US is in Africa, or what US is really doing in Africa. We are going to talk. It promotes trade through African Growth and Opportunity Act program. Also it invests in mining, energy and resources, and it also invests in technology. And the reason number 3 why USA, or what USA is really doing in Africa, is countering rivalry, whereby the USA is competing with China and Russia for influence over African markets, governments and resources. And number 4 is all about military and security, where US AFRICOM runs military bases that counter terrorism. Groups like Al-Shabaab and ISIS, that is in full Islamic State of Iraq and Syria. And we are going to talk about development aid, where USA funds health, education, and also infrastructure projects, often tied to US strategic goals. And those are the reasons what the US is really doing in Africa, the major reasons. And in the next topic we are going to break them down to see more, to learn more about the US in Africa and their impact, if it is really positive or if there are some disadvantages for Africans. And please, if you like the video, please follow, subscribe, and also share. And also I take this time to say thank you for your presence and thank you for everything. May you support me into this, and may God bless you. Nice time.